You want to slide over just a little bit, Kenny? You're kind of out of the picture. You
Yeah,
can.
you can come up here and get on me. Sorry, guys, we are having some serious internet issues down here at the beach. So we're about,
We're on our third location.
yeah. So, anyway, we're going to get started.
Let's give it just a second. Let some people get in here. We got a couple people already going.
I got
Hopping
it.
on. We're about, 30 minutes late? 20, yeah, 15 minutes late, something like that. All right. All right, we want to welcome you to the February edition of the Apalachee Inshore Fishing Report. I am Jay Carson. This is Evan Snow. This month we have Captain Kenny Mullins joining us of Real Epic Charters, based out of Keaton Beach, Florida. So, Kenny, appreciate you coming on this month.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, we want to start off by thanking our title sponsor this month, which is Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals. They have several properties down here in Keaton Beach that you can rent. Beautiful properties. I was actually been in 3 of them today, so got a good tour of those. So they are gorgeous, and if you haven't had a chance to come down here and stay in Keaton Beach, it's a good place to check out where you can relax and unwind. For availability and rates and booking, you want to make sure you go to KeatonBeachVacationRentals.com, and you can see all the properties they have available there. So we want to make sure we thank them because they are sponsoring this month.
For sure. All right, we can go ahead and jump into current conditions. What it's tough out there right now. I mean, we're literally inside my house here because it's cold and the wind's just blowing like crazy, and it's been like that for 2 days. I think we've seen maybe 1 or 2 brave souls who've tried to go fishing down here.
When I pulled in this evening, there was 2 boats in the park, or two trailers in the parking lot, and I was thinking to myself, I do not want to be on either of those 2 boats right now.
No, not at all.
Because it is blowing about 25 out there, and it's probably about 45 or 50 degrees. So
yeah. So if you're watching this and you went fishing today, let us know how it was.
more power to you, for sure. Yeah. So I mean, we've had some negative tides this week, so that's kind of had the bite in the afternoon.
Late.
Yeah, late afternoon bite has been good. As those tides start to come up a little bit, moving forward, I think you're going to start to see a switch in that. But we do got some cool weather this week. I think the next few days we're supposed to have some lows in the 30s, highs in the 50s, maybe getting up to 60. So, the longer you can wait to get out there to let that water warm up, I think the more successful you're going to be, as we move through February.
Kenny, what were you? You were out Saturday because nobody fished the last couple of days. But what was the water temp when you were up when you were fishing? Or you were at maybe 60ish?
It was about 50, 58, 59.
Yeah, in the morning it
Sa-
probably warmed up to
Warmed up to
61.
about 60,
Well,
60.
Saturday morning I was out and it was 51 Saturday morning, and then by the time I got off the water, I think it was close to. We finished up about 2, and it was like 57.
Yeah,
something like
I think it might even touch 60 because it warmed up pretty good Saturday.
Yeah,
but,
Thursday was even. It was 56, 57.
yeah, and so and you've had some really cold mornings the past couple mornings, so it's going to be. I'm sure it's been falling since then. I mean, it was really cold today, so it's probably in the mid 50s right now. I would.
Yeah,
guess.
and it's probably going to hang in the mid to low 50s, I think, throughout the rest of this week, and moving forward. Just depends on how, if we have a warmer than normal February, then we're going to get some warmer water temps. But if February is usually one of our colder months, so I would look for it to kind of stay pretty consistent to where it's at right now.
Well, that'll yeah. So speaking of February and the fishing, that'll roll us into this month's best bet, sponsored by the Nowhere Grill, located between Perry and Keaton Beach on Beach Road. They are having a motorcycle rally leaving from the restaurant April 3rd. All proceeds go to Hooked on Heroes, which is a program focused on getting veterans on the water at no cost to them. So basically, you just whatever fee you pay and go out, and that's going to get some veterans on the water. If you want any more information on that, you can message me, go eat lunch or dinner at Nowhere Grill, ask them about it, or call, and we'll get you hooked up with some more information on that.
It's good local spot.
Yeah. Kenny,
Yes.
if you're going fishing tomorrow, what are you doing?
I'm
Hiding
dressed
from
pretty
the
warm.
wind.
Hide
Hiding from the wind.
No, I would start out, 50 yards from the grass line, creek mouse, working my way in, especially with it being so cold and dropping down. Very slow presentation.
Very slow presentation, and that being, obviously so this would be a good theme for the weekend, which if the rain holds off, I was looking at the long term, I think we're going to have, okay weather, fishing weather this weekend. What are you going to throw? I mean, what would you really like suggest for people to target? Some,
Typically, I try to mix it up. If I have multiple people on the boat, I'll have a couple people with soft plastics, one with a light colored one with a dark colored one, and try to put a couple people with plugs, suspending, slow suspending plugs. My go-to, which I brought, is a Miradine. I like the 27, the Miradine XL. I'll swap out the hooks so it'll suspend a little slower.
yeah, we can talk about that here in a minute.
But that's basically what I do. That's about all I'm throwing right now, and maybe some red fins.
Well, it depends on who we have on the boat, I think, and your skill level. But sometimes we'll try. I usually keep some shrimp on the boat, but somebody will be throwing artificial, maybe a hard plug, maybe a red fin. Somebody might be throwing a jerk shad soft plastic, or somebody might throw a shrimp on bottom run or popping cork, and
Yep.
and we kind of see how things are going and conform to that. Well, if they're hitting the soft plastics, then maybe we might do 3 different colors of soft plastics, and then you see which one's getting the more action. Then you just, by the end of the day, everybody's fishing with the same thing usually. You got a philosophy you got to go to on that, Jay?
On by the
Yeah,
end.
just as far as you fishing with different baits, or you just
It kind of depends on what I'm doing. If I'm fishing over the flats, the grass flats up shallow right now because the fish are pretty shallow. Then you're gonna have to fish something that stays out of the grass, like a suspending plug or
I
a soft plastic that jerk shad or something like that.
think the slow sinkers, the suspenders, and the slow risers are king right now this
Yeah.
time of weather. Whether it be a Miradine like Kenny's going to talk about here in a little bit, and or just a weightless plastic like a jerk shad or something like that you're going to get a slow sink rate on, or even like a red fin or some kind of lip plug that's going to dive and
come
give
back.
you a
We were
slow
having
rise.
the other day. We were having more success on a red fin just because it was, you were able to fish it a little shallower because those fish are really shallow right now. I mean, when it's cool in the morning, those fish are pushed up shallow, and we were doing a little bit better. Even a sinking plug would sink just enough where it would start to get hung up in the grass.
Yeah, and that's another thing if you're out there on a lower tide, and I think what Kenny's going to talk about this in a minute. We're trying to hold off to get to that for the tackle tip, but you can throw like a red fin or something that's going to run higher, and then as the water comes up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
throw something that's going to sink a little lower, like a
Paul,
Miradine
or a Paul Brown.
or a Paul Brown, Corky.
Corky. Or
Yeah, I throw an old classic a lot, 7M11. Kind of floats and just barely twitches down and work it slow.
Yes, for
those,
sure.
Those old classic plugs are forgotten about, but
Yeah, the Mirror they make some great plugs, especially for this time of year. But man, you got to like study for a test to remember all those plug names. I mean, there's 7M, 5M, 52M. I get them confused. I just have to look at them. And a lot of times, if you're picking them out, you can tell by the placement of the eyelet on the plug.
Yep.
Whereas if it's the placement of the eyelets on the top of the plug, it's usually going to be a sinking plug.
Right.
And if it's on the nose, it's usually a floating or a suspender. And a lot of times they'll, it says on the packaging. Sometimes they don't do a great job of labeling their packagings as far as what the action of the plug.
Yeah, you
are,
have
but-
to find where it says either suspending or floating or.
Yep.
And you have to look hard.
Yeah, and that's all it'll say. It'll say like suspending,
Yeah.
but it doesn't say it suspends at 4 inches, 6 inches, or it's going to fall. It doesn't do a very good job of doing a sink rate like some other plug manufacturers do, but they work. They really
Yeah,
do.
they do. So you had asked, what. So that's for the flats. If I'm fishing flats, I'm throwing plugs. As that water gets in, there's a lot of fish in the creeks as well. So that changes my tactics up. Kind of, I'm not going to really throw plugs too much in the creeks because I really like to fish the bottom. I'm fishing off the bottom, fishing slow, work it through those
With
channels
what are you fishing off the bottom slow?
Well, you can fish a variety of things. Any paddle tail on like a 1/4 or 1/8 ounce jig head, just working it slow, popping it up off the bottom will work. I really like to add scent to my baits this time of year. Any type of scent additive is going to work well. There's a bunch of different ones out there that you can get. But I do feel like because a lot of the fish are lethargic, that little bit of extra scent can trigger that fish to bite, and you can get a little bit more, get a few more bites doing that.
Yeah, and it's a little preference because I actually do like throwing some plugs in some creeks
Okay, yeah.
for some
Yeah.
trout and stuff, especially trout in the winter. I mean, you're going to run across some
Yeah.
redfish too for sure. But and it right now. I mean, February this time of year, it's going to depend on the warming trends and how cold the water is. Because I mean, I went Friday and we caught fish all weekend. It was late, but both days we caught them late. But Friday I caught them in the creek, way back in the creek, and then Saturday we caught them on the flats. So, I mean, it's just finding the fish. They could be either one. It's not set in stone that they're going to be in the creeks all month.
Yeah. So I fished a few consecutive days here recently, and it was a warming trend.
Yep.
So the first day I fished, I found a lot of fish kind of maybe not right in the creek mouths, but back up in the creeks a little bit. And as we fished consecutive days, I found trout kind of inching their way out, and then by the third day, we were catching some nice trout on the outer bars. But then, of course, as you get those cold spells, it kind of pushes them back in.
Yeah,
So-
you were saying something about that yesterday, Kenny.
Yeah, we kind of had that false spring,
Mhm.
and it scattered the fish, and even y'all may have seen this, but even when we have these short cold fronts, it seems like your smaller slot fish are quicker to move in.
Mhm.
Your
For
bigger
sure.
fish, they're still hanging out there, especially the reds. Some of your bigger trout still hanging out on the flats. But I don't know if y'all have found that, but
Yeah, well, we
Yeah, it seems like the smaller fish get in the creeks first. But go
Right.
ahead. Sorry, Jay.
I was gonna say we found a few spots that I think it depends on the location really, because I found a creek where we fished a spot on a little oyster channel, and it was piled up with 15, 16 inch trout, and I moved over to another creek, same scenario, but this time I was pulling 17, 18, and 19-inch fish
And
out of that. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think it depends on which creek you're fishing and which spot it is over those fish.
And you bring up a good point there because these trout, they group up so much this time of year, and they tend to hang with their own.
Mhm.
So like if you're catching them, I mean, if you're catching 14, 15, 16-inch trout, a lot of times that's most of what you're going to catch. Or in
Right.
some spots you might pull up and they might all be 19, 20 inches, or
Yeah, and
you
you're
might
having
go
a-
find a bunch of overslot. They usually
Right.
hang together.
Yep.
My dog's bringing me a toy over here. Go get in your bed. Go.
So yeah, I think it just depends on what you want to do right now. So Kenny, we talked your best bet. Evan, if you're gonna go out, not tomorrow, but the next nice day that it's out or fishable day, what are you doing?
Okay, so I see Mike Davis commenting there. He was fishing with me Saturday. So anybody who's fished with me much this time of year know that I love jerk shads, weightless jerk shads for trout. And what I'll do is I'll just nose hook them with I use a bass hook, but you can use anything. And man, I just rip the stew out of them and let them settle, and rip the stew out of them and let them settle. I just don't get in a big hurry.
Is there a particular depth you like to fish those in? In other words, are you ever in a situation where it's too deep for you to put that
No,
on, like in a
never
creek
too
mouth
deep,
or
because
something
I'll
like that?
fish it all the way up to 4 feet of water
Okay.
or so. And this time of year, I'm never over 4 feet of water, even on the big high tides.
Sure.
I mean, because I'm not out there where on high tide it's going to be 6 feet of water. That would
Right,
probably
no,
be too deep.
yeah.
But I'm just not fishing
Yeah.
there. And even in the creeks, if you
If you have, in other words, if you have like a 6-foot hole or something like that, and you're trying to work through that, are you gonna?
Yeah, I'll still throw it in there, but what I'll do is I'll just give it longer.
Yeah.
I'll cast it out and give it 5, 7, 8 seconds to get low, and then maybe not rip it quite as hard, because if you rip it hard, it's coming up. But if you just give it maybe a little rod twitch, it'll just kind of work a little lower. Keep your rod tip down. But yeah, I'll it's very versatile, I think, in water depth.
I use a lot of jerk shads too. Weightless. I use a lot of 16th ounce. This time in the creeks.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I did notice the other day too, Saturday when I was out, that there was still quite a few pinfish on the flats as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, anything that's going to mimic that, I think would be well.
Yeah, sorry, we got to reset the camera here for just a second before it blacks out on us. We've already had enough technical difficulties today. We don't want any more. So, the Three Stooges, I hear you, Eamon. So, Anything else? We've talked about suspendings. We talked a little bit about like your lip plugs, like your rip stops and your red fins, or maybe your biter baits if you can get some that doesn't just, completely crack and sink on you. I feel like every one out of every 4 or 5 of those are just complete duds out of the pack. The quality control is terrible on there.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So I guess another thing you could probably do if you were specifically trying to target redfish or something like that, you could slow roll a Aqua Dream spoon,
For sure.
and then or a spinnerbait or something like that, and you can move them slow. Work those oyster bars in rocky areas and things like that to
And that goes back
target
to,
redfish.
and this is like another conversation, but I guess we can talk about it briefly as far as more erratic baits, trout tend to like better,
Yeah.
more static baits, redfish
Yeah.
tend to like better. So like a paddle tail
Yeah.
reeled straight, or like a spoon or a spinner bait, chatterbait.
Yeah, for sure. If you're trying to target one or the other, I think that if you're specifically trying to target a redfish or specifically trying to target a trout, you can vary your tactic. I think if you're trying to catch equal amounts of both, which is what we were trying to do earlier, I think any shrimp imitation right now is going to be the key on that one, because you're going to catch, that's what they're primarily feeding on right now.
So I don't know if you follow my Instagram or my Facebook stories. We caught a trout last week or the week before. I have a picture of it. I wish we could upload it on here to show everyone right now. But when the guy caught it, his belly was just as fat as it could be. And I said, I'll be interested. We kept it. I said, I'll be interested to see what he was eating on later. And when I cleaned it, it was just, his stomach was packed with just little bitty shrimp like that. Just as packed as it could be. I can't believe that he couldn't have fit another one in there and he still ate a plug. So, that gives you a good idea of what they were feeding on anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you guys go ahead and start dropping some questions in. We can retroactively scroll back and see some. We're going to get to that here in just a minute. We're going to do now we're going to move on to the tackle tip. So Kenny, I know you were trying to get on it earlier. I was trying to stall you off a little bit, give you a tech, but so this segment we're just going to talk a little bit about maybe some little different unique things you can do. And anyway, take it away, Kenny.
Well, one thing I was going to talk about is I like using these 27s. A lot of people this time of year will use a 17, which is smaller.
The smaller one.
A Miradine.
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 That's a Miradine XL,
Yeah,
right?
This is a Miradine XL.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll switch the hooks out to a thinner hook, take some weight out of it. I like throwing the XL even this time of year because it's a bigger presentation, more flash.
The XL being the 27 MR, whereas the regular Miradine is the 17, just to get the lingo going
Correct.
for you there.
Correct.
Sorry, I just wanted to make that clear before we start off. And why are you doing that? Why are you lightening up the hooks?
I'll lighten up the hooks to slow down the sink, so it'll suspend a little longer. And when I work this, I don't do like the twitch pause like I would do in the spring or fall. I'll do more of like a jig, but not a quick jig, just kind of a easy drag and just let it kind of flutter as it goes back down. If that makes sense.
Right, and those lighter hooks, you're obviously you're going to be tossing in shallower water like on lower tides and stuff, and
Correct.
you may want the heavier sink rate when you got.
So what you're saying is it's almost like you're more just raising the rod tip instead of
Yes,
jerking it.
not raising it a bunch,
Right.
But raising it at let's say 6 inches.
Yeah.
And then kind of pausing and then doing it again.
So almost like, I don't know how much you bass fish, but when you fish a worm on the bottom, you kind of just pick that rod up and then let it go back down,
Exactly.
and pick that rod up and let it go back down.
So I don't know how well you guys can see this, but he's got like the standard black nickel on the front here. Just for example, this is not how he's going to rig it up, and then he's
No.
got some kind of lighter. It looks like what is that? Is that is that?
It's a little smaller, and it's a thin wire hook.
It's thinner. It's a little smaller, and it's thinner in diameter too. And you're putting that on, obviously on the front. and the
On
back
both.
there.
I just did that so you can see the difference.
Are you changing the split rings out on those too? Because it looks like those aren't the ones that came with it, or maybe
No,
they are.
those are the standard
Oh,
ones.
those are the standard ones. Okay.
That is another option, change them out.
Yeah.
And what are you mostly targeting when you're doing that? Is it trout, redfish?
Trout and redfish.
Both.
Yes.
Have you found it one or the other?
Proclivity.
The presentation on the redfish that seems to work a little better is a straight reel, just a slow straight reel.
That's what we were
makes
talking
sense.
about, static and erratic.
Yep.
Which if you straight reel a redfin, do this same idea, instead of the erratic twitch and pause.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize this, but a redfin is a wake bait.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
what it's
Yeah,
designed to do
it's
is
designed to
be
run
real,
shallow and swim.
real just under the surface of the water and rock back and forth. But not a lot of people use it like that.
You talked about in the creeks, the deeper holes. I still throw something similar. I'll throw the heavy dean, which is it's about a foot a second suspension rate, and still work it the same way, slower. Because obviously this is going to be for your shallow water around oyster bars, creek mouths, grass lines.
Yeah, I see. What's for dinner? I'm probably going to go get some wings at Nowhere after this. That really sounds good. The Nowhere Grill, baby.
So, yeah, so I guess that about wraps up our tackle tip. We got time to we got some questions. that
Yeah,
we can
get some
start
questions going while you guys are dropping a couple questions. I just want to talk a little bit more about Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals. They were nice enough to sponsor the show this month, and they've got 4 different properties here on Keaton Beach. They're all on the water. They've got 2 big houses, the Fish Gills and the Margaritaville. Those are going to be able to have 6 to 8 to 10 people, or 8 to 10 people staying in those max. And then they also have the boathouse, which is that you can break down in a little smaller units where, if it's just you and your wife or you and your husband or, whatever, it's just smaller units, a little less money, don't hold as many people and stuff like that. And then they all have grills, they all have cornhole. Stephanie rent you some kayaks, so there's always something to do down here for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good fishing, right here out of the Keaton Beach Channel. So if all you have is a kayak, you can get to some fish pretty quickly. So.
Yeah, if you don't have a boat and you don't want to charter one of us to take you, I guess you can rent a kayak and go fishing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's one of those things. If you rent a place, you got a boat slip.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come down, you've got everything here. You got kitchen, you got grill.
Yep.
You can just come in off the water. You don't have to worry about driving back to Georgia or Tallahassee or wherever you're coming from, and just kick back, relax, and really enjoy some time with family and friends.
And
That's
pick
what
you
it's
up.
all about.
We can pick you up right from the dock.
Yeah, I'll pick you up from the dock for sure. But anyway, if y'all want to check those out, it's KeatonBeachVacationRentals.com, or you can call Stephanie at 772-284-0124, and she'll get you hooked up.
Yep. All right, you want to get to some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so first good question I see on here is from Travis Andrews. Travis Andrews says, what weight spoons for this time of year? You want to start on that one?
Are you a spoon fisherman? Do you throw many spoons?
Not this time of year, I don't. Other times I throw them quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say.
You want to start that one? I'll back you up. Go ahead.
Well, we can both talk about
Okay.
it. Okay. So all I'm going to say is a little deeper water. I'm going to go with the quarter. I meant the
3/8.
3/8. Sorry, a little deeper water. Going to go with the 3/8. And if it's windy and I'm having to cast into the wind, especially if you have a north wind or an east wind and you're having to work into these creeks into the wind, you want a little heavier plug to cast into the wind. Whereas it's more of a calm day or something like that, I'm going to go with the 1/4 ounce.
Yeah. Basically, the spoons that Evan and I prefer, and
The Aquadream.
the Aquadream spoons, which
That's what I use as well.
you can go on their website. They got a great selection on there. They have a live bait series that looks just like some of your bait fish, pinfish, mullet, white bait, or pilchards, whatever you want to throw. Even they got blue crab on there as well.
They got any kind of pattern
Any
or
kind of
color
pattern,
you
yeah,
want on a spoon.
And traditional gold. I mean, they got all different kinds. You can go on there and look. They got a great variety of stuff on there. And they make 2 sizes, the 1/4 ounce and the 3/8, and I think you pretty much covered it. If you got some deeper water and fish that. I haven't really found a difference. Like if you had to say, okay, one fish is going to eat the 1/4 ounce because it's smaller. I don't think the size makes the difference on whether those fish are going to eat it or not.
No.
I think it's the weight and the depth and how fast you are reeling it, as opposed to
Well, if the water's clear and everything's subtle and it's calm, you may want that 1/4 ounce a little more subtle. And if you're really shallow on some grass flats, that 1/4 ounce will run a little higher and not get hung up in the grass as
Exactly,
much. But
yeah.
if it's windy, that 3/8 can really just cut the wind.
Yeah. Well, they both really good are good wind baits because you can throw in windy conditions with either size. That 3/8 one's a little bit better.
All right.
Next question is again from Travis Andrews. Are the jacks running? There's bluefish,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely bluefish.
but as far as like Jack Crevalle, no.
I haven't. Well, not that I've caught. Now, I mean, but I'm not really targeted.
I think
them.
that the water's a little cold right now.
We hooked up. We hooked up. I think last Tuesday, and I thought we had a good redfish. And they're shallow, and it was pull and drag, and throwing those pancake bowls up like the redfish do with their tail. And I was very disappointed to see when it got to the boat, it was just a big bluefish. So I wanted to cut the line.
They've been mixed in with those reds.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, all right. Got a lot of comments on here, but not many questions. How about, okay, here's one from Gary Morris. Says, what maps do you use on the plotters, and is one any better than the other for the Keaton area? Navionics, sea maps, others showing channel markers, creeks, contours, and depth.
I use Florida Marine Tracks.
Well, that was going to be
Talk
what
I love it.
Let's go ahead and give a free plug, I guess. Let's go
mean,
ahead and do it.
It is what it is. It's a game changer.
So, since the question was asked, let's talk about why is it better than what is for people who don't know what Florida Marine Tracks is.
Well, for our area, especially with the rocks, the oyster bars, a lot of PVC markers that are on there that won't be on your other maps. Your tracks in and out of certain areas. It has red tracks. Good to run pretty much any tide. I mean, some negative tides are going to affect that, but black tracks.
So, basically, what it is
it's a cheat code.
Yes, it is an aerial map overlay for your GPS. So it looks like satellite mode on Google Maps on your GPS system. And on top of that, so you can see rocks and oyster bars and cuts in the water and stuff. But on top of that, their people who work there have went through and marked rocks and safe run areas and spoil areas and actually mapped that out.
To an extent.
Yeah, I think of the entire coastline, I think ours is still the least mapped of Florida.
It is.
Yes.
But
Typical.
it's still very. When I had the chance, I don't have Florida Marine Tracks on my boat yet. I'm going in that direction though.
Yeah, you got to bring your wallet if you're going to get one of those.
And you can only run them on certain machines. You can't run them on everything. So that's another consideration you have to take into account.
I just use like $100 Navionics chip. I mean, it's okay. It's a lot better than what you're going to get just on your machines out of the box, whether it's the Rance Garmin, Humminbird, whatever. The Navionics is going to show you a little more detail, but it's not like that Florida Marine Tracks.
Yeah.
But those Florida Marine Tracks going to run $400 to $600 for a chip, just for the chip. Not talking about the GPS.
Yeah, and but it is. I mean, I've seen it. I've been on boats that have it, and it does make getting around a little bit easier.
Yeah, we were in Crystal River fishing one time, Kenny and I, and he just ran off through he ran off through some stuff, and I was like, man, do you know where you're going? And he's like, no, I'm just following the trail on the map. I'd never do that. I'd leave my lower unit out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You have some trust to do that.
But I mean, it is.
That's an area that they cover very well.
Yeah, they do cover that area, and ours is not quite as covered. But I was still impressed with how much they had on there, just comparing it to my local knowledge, and then seeing what all they had on there. I was pretty impressed with what I had.
We got Kane's got a comment more than it looks like a question. We could talk about it a little bit though. I think.
What was that? Which one?
The one you're looking at
Oh, right here. We fished Saturday. Okay, so Kane Staines. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I think so.
We fished Saturday, and early we could see fish laying on the bottom in 2 to 3 feet of water in the grass. The boat didn't spook them, and they wouldn't bite. Anything that we threw at them later on, we wound up catching fish in that same spot that looked like the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out why fish were even there. No feed, no grass or cover, etc. Any comments?
Yeah.
Couple things. And you
Go
guys
ahead,
want to
Jake,
start? You
go
want to
ahead.
start? Okay. As far as why they wouldn't bite earlier, that probably had to do with just being early in the morning and the water temperature was down, and those fish were feeling really lethargic.
What time of day was it?
It says
'Cause I seen it.
said
Early, because
early
I
on.
drifted over a lot of fish Saturday too that
Early
wouldn't
on,
bite.
yeah, they wouldn't bite early. So Saturday, they they were just turned off for whatever reason, and it get especially trout. Trout get like that. Redfish you can usually tend to coax a bite out of pretty much throughout the day, but trout can really
Might
go
take
through,
some work. But
through periods of shutdown where they just won't feed at all, and
So
that's
why were-
probably what that was. Is just a water temperature thing, and then
Why were they hanging out on the moonscape?
well, that would be because they were trying to get warm.
yeah, exactly.
So if they're cold, they're going to be look for something that whatever's going to heat up the quickest, and any type of dark bottom or anything that's going to absorb that heat the fastest is going to warm up quickest. And
There was a lot of fish on mud and rock Saturday
yes,
afternoon.
yes,
that
there
big
were.
warm up.
Yes, yeah. When we were pushing into some areas, I noticed that.
They were not in
They-
the grass.
they
They
were
were
not-
on the rocks and the mud, and
Mhm.
and all that is you had that huge negative
Mhm.
tide Saturday morning, and that sun beat down that stuff
Yep.
all morning.
Yep.
And then when that water came up, it was just locally a lot warmer right there, and they were hanging on it, getting warmth. And and that's another thing. And let's go ahead and jump into this a little bit too. I don't know, how are we doing on time?
We're
okay?
good. Yeah, we're good.
Good on time. Okay. So look at your butt. If you got a machine that gauges water temperature, pay attention to it. And not just
Absolutely.
when you come out the channel markers say, oh, the water temp's 62 degrees today. This is what I'm going to do. Like, really pay attention to it as far as where you're at. If you're in this spot, then the water is 61 degrees, but you move a couple hundred yards over and you notice that the water's bumped up to 62 degrees, even if you don't know why, fish that. Fish the locally warmer water, when it's
Absolutely.
cold like that.
Hmm.
I mean, that's water temperature.
You're going to
good.
find that there's like a magic for whatever that day that is. You're going to find that when that water temperature hits whatever magic temperature that is, it's going to trigger the bite. It could be 58 degrees. It could be 60 degrees. It's just kind of however the fish are feeling, moon phase or whatever. But there's going to be a temperature where that water's going to hit and they're going to start to feed. So, but that's why, Kane. But that's a very good observation. And anytime you're out and you see stuff like that, that's great opportunities to learn. Make those mental notes and then go forward from there and try to see if you can find similar conditions or find the conditions that you need to get those fish to feed.
Yeah, and that's just like sometimes I'll get into a creek in a negative tide, and it'll be significantly warmer, and then when that tide starts coming, you'll see that water just start dropping, and the fish is shut down. It's time to get out of there and move.
Yeah, because
The water temp falls, man. It's really hard. Not saying you can't catch fish. It's really hard to catch fish when that water temp's dropping. I mean, you can go out there and scrape some out, but it's not going to be an easy day.
yeah.
No.
Next comment or question is again from Travis Andrews. Says, do you guys use cut mullet or cut ladyfish this time of year?
I do not.
I don't.
I mean, you can. That's not to say that fish can't be caught on them, but just me personally, I don't deal with it. If I'm going to be eating, if I'm going to be using live bait, it's just easier to grab shrimp than have to.
Yeah,
deal
that's
with.
a lot of work. Plus, can
I
you
don't
even find a
yeah, I
ladyfish
say,
right
I
now?
don't know about ladyfish. You can get mullet, but
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the fish are gonna. There's a lot of other things that you can use to be successful right now that, you don't have to go through that trouble.
yeah.
So.
You see, I see Michael Amory
Yeah.
saying Colby Elias is the one that works for the Florida Marine Tracks. We need to get Colby to give us a hookup on a sponsorship.
Yeah,
that
we
was a pretty
do.
good
Yeah,
plug. How
I'm
many people
telling
we
you.
got?
Yeah.
We got like 3 or 4 people in the comments asking about it here.
Yeah. No, Michael. My favorite bait is not cut ladyfish.
Yeah, I thought.
I'm gonna leave some for you next time I see you out there. You're gonna find a couple ladyfish maybe laid up on the side of your boat somewhere.
stick them. Yeah, stick them in one of those compartments he's not using very often.
Bart says, what GPSs can you use that on? I believe it's Lowrance, Simrad,
Simrad.
and there's
It's a
one other.
commercial.
Ray, is it Ray Marine? Does Ray Marine run it? No,
it's B. Was it
I know it's Lowrance and Simrad. I'm not
Lowrance
sure.
and Simrad
Yeah,
are
the
the
two main ones.
ones.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about a unit and you want to run, we're giving a bunch of free advertising
Yeah,
tonight.
it's too much free advertising.
Um,
What'd you?
Yeah. Well, Michael says almost all but Garmin's, but Humminbird doesn't run it. I
No.
don't believe. So
I
Garmin
see,
and Humminbird don't run it.
See, Jason Witherspoon is on. What's up, man? Appreciate the heads up. He gave me a little tip the other day that helped out a little bit.
We hit a hot button topic on that Florida Marine Tracks, didn't we?
I know. We just
Good
just-
grief.
I wasn't gonna say anything. They haven't looked over at me, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to get a free card. Out
We
of
need
that,
to
and then
redact-
We'll get
can
Colby
we-
on here to talk about it.
Can we
more.
redact a conversation? Can we go back and cut that part out? Yeah. Okay. Lanny says, "Yeah, water temperature is most overlooked thing." I agree. That and tide levels, Lanny. People overlook, I think, the level that the tide is at, particularly during what stage it's in.
Yeah, and you know, and talking about water temperature, it's definitely important during the winter, but I think it's important. Maybe not as much as the spring or fall, but I think it's important all the time, especially in the summer. You know, when you're fishing those. Now we're getting a little off subject here, but you're fishing those deep water. It's cooler down there in the summer, so I mean that's the main driving force for fish is water temperature. And you know, in the long term, in the short term, I guess it would be tides, but
I think this time of year, and I think y'all would agree, it's more water temperature than tides this time of year, as far as where you're gonna.
Yes.
I think tides control where they're at on the short term, as far as like right that minute where they're at. As far as water
Right.
temperature controls where they want to be.
Right.
You know, where they're trying to be, what their objective is. Anybody got anything else to drop in? If not, what are we at time wise?
We are at almost 40 minutes, so
Yeah, I mean, if someone don't drop something,
yeah, we
in.
got a little bit more time. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to drop them on there.
We got the Mrs. Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals here. Do you have anything to add, or you got a question? No fisherman questions. Okay, she says no. Let's see, especially for those gator trout. Yeah, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
So, have you either of you guys caught any big gator trout in the last little bit?
Nope.
Yeah, I've seen we
I mean 20, 21, 22,
22.
but I wouldn't call that a gator trout.
yeah we hooked a couple big ones earlier in the week, but we lost them all at the boat, and they weren't giant, but like mid-20s, probably 24, somewhere in that range. One was on an outer bar, and one was in a creek, so there wasn't really any kind of indication.
Biggest we
Yeah, they
caught
weren't
this week
held
was 24,
Yeah.
and it was out on the flats.
Yeah.
What
So-
let's talk about this if we just want to fill just a little more time. The how deep question, is that probably the main question you guys get this time of year?
Absolutely.
The how deep?
Yeah, I mean, I
Pretty
think
much
that's
all year.
I was going to say I don't know that that's a specific question for this time of year. I think, like Kenny said, it's all year long. How deep are they?
You want to talk about why that's not a valid question right now?
Well, it's relative to where you're fishing, where the fish are at. I mean, you could say 3 to 4 feet, but are you in a creek or are you out on the flats? Or
Is it low tide? Is it high tide?
Exactly.
That same
It's-
fish is going to be sitting in 12, 18 inches of water on low tide, and he might be in 4.5 feet of water on high tide. So that's a pretty damn big discrepancy there, you know, as far as telling somebody, oh, we caught them in 3 feet of water. Well, if it's low tide, they're going to be out there 2 miles off. And,
exactly.
you know, I mean, that's just not a good, I mean, maybe in the May, that's an okay question to ask, but like, you know.
You know, I could tell someone I'm in 8 feet of water, and I'm back in a creek in a hole, and they're going to be out there in 8 feet of water. Not going to catch anything.
Mm-hmm.
John,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I've seen a few boats out there in about 6 to 8 feet of water, and I was, just kind of thinking to myself as I rode by.
Real quick, kind of funny story I told Kenny the other day. Kenny had a little boat issues the other day, had a gas leak in a fuel line, and we ran out about the same time, and I ran past him, and I saw him out there, and he was probably in like 6 feet of water, way off the shore on like low tide, and I just ran past him. I said, surely this guy knows better than to be fishing out here. Like, what is this dude doing? What has this joker got going on out here? No, he was just broke down. So I
Yep.
just I didn't even slow down. Just
All
right
right.
by him.
We got a couple more questions coming in. So next one is from Judy Hall, who asked, do suspenders Do suspending baits work well this time of year?
Absolutely. We were just talking about
Mhm.
that. If you, Judy, if you joined us a little late, if you just go back once this live feed's over with and
We had a whole
watch it from the
section.
start, yeah, we talked about that a good bit. And Minix,
John Minix.
Minix. The jerk shad is fishing a jerk shad. Do you prefer a hook or a jig head? Well, that's going to get a couple different answers right here, I would believe, because I prefer just a weightless hook. But I'm sure
Depends on where I'm fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenny's
Yeah,
about to tell you
yeah.
he uses a jig head
Well, if I'm fishing a mud flat for redfish, I want a jig head. I'm gonna
or a keel weight.
or a keel weight, and I'm gonna drag it on the bottom. Kick up that mud a little bit. I'm still working it slow, but
And then obviously on the flats, you're using more of a weightless, just a hook, right, Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3/0 owner bass hook. Ain't nothing to it. You literally get a 3/0 owner bass hook, hook the saltwater assassin through the nose, and it can be the paddle tail or the jerk shad. You just can cast the jerk shad a little further and just let it rip.
Yeah. All right. So next question from Travis Andrews has been giving us some good questions tonight. So thank
That's
you.
your buddy. isn't it?
Appreciate
he
that,
is.
Travis.
He's a good fisherman too.
He says, "Where are the sheep's head?" We caught one earlier in the week in a creek mouth, but I'm pretty sure they're about to start showing up on some of the nearshore reefs, right?
They will. It's
Another month.
another month.
in
and probably
February,
Really, the
middle
full-
end of
the-
February.
yeah, the-
big full moon in February.
I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
first full moon
Yeah.
in February.
Yeah.
So yeah, here and well, it's we're just on a
February
full moon,
1st.
so probably
Yeah.
a month away.
Yeah.
But they'll go out in the out there on the reefs, the nearshore reefs, and also in creeks. If you got some rocky creeks, you will catch them in February and March on shrimp in the creeks, and it's going to be a real subtle bite. They're not going to grab it. If you're fishing those creeks or wherever, they're going to tap, 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 crunch, crunch, crunch.
Yep.
So don't snatch it away from them. Just let them go if you think that's what you're. I think we talked about it a little bit last month. I'm targeting those with live bait if I'm going to target them. I'm not really throwing artificials at them.
Although I think I mentioned this last month, I have caught a sheep's head on a rattling redfin before, so
We've caught 2 on spoons this year earlier.
so they will eat other
Or
baits,
last
but they
year.
prefer live bait.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to target them, I'm using live bait, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
Oh
anything
yeah,
about
shrimp,
anything else.
shrimp in a creek, deep hole in a creek.
Another good question, Bart Herndon. When do y'all think we can expect the water temperature to warm up and the fish go back to the flats?
Well, there's some fish on the flats now.
Yeah, there are. But that's typically like a mid-March thing, right? Early
Yeah, I
Mar-
would
mid, early
say
March.
second. Just speaking typically, who knows what the weather's going to do, but really, you start breaking out that really springtime flats fishing. That's going to be mid-March, and there's going to be a million boats out there on a
Oh,
Saturday.
there is, yes.
Really, a million boats.
You want to take the next one?
Is there any rhyme or reason for why fish move up into the creeks? Is there a magic number on water temp?
I think when that water temperature hits below 57, 56, I think is when you start to really, those fish really start to push up in there. I think they can handle
60s.
60s fairly
60.
comfortable, yes, and high 50s fairly comfortable too, but you start getting in the mid to low 50s.
Yeah, that's going to drive them in. Like right now, if the water temp's 60, 61, you can catch them either way. You can catch them on the flats
can,
or the creeks.
yeah.
Right.
But once it starts getting down, like Jay was saying, in mid 50s, I would really concentrate on those deeper holes in the creeks and stuff. Is that Lanny? Is that what you've been catching those fish on Secret Creek? Is cigarette butts? He said we're making it too complicated. Red jig head with cigarette butt.
You can actually catch them on. I've seen. You can catch them on just a jig head when they're really biting, man. You can
Oh,
find a
yeah.
hole
Yeah.
that they're in.
You can catch them on anything when they're fired up. I had a guy, and this is a true story. I had a guy come on a charter with me, and saw a YouTube video where some kids were just on some really fired up fish and caught a fish on a Twizzler. I mean, you see them catch them on Snickers bar or whatever. I mean, if they're fired up, they'll eat anything that's moving through the water. This fool fished with a Twizzler on a charter. Now he's going to pay the money to go with a fishing guide on a charter. And I told him, he said, "You think I can catch anything on a Twizzler?" I said, "Probably not." He said, "I'm going to try." I said, "Okay." So he spent half the trip fishing with a Twizzler and didn't catch a damn thing. So, my bad internet review there. So if you see somebody bashing me online, they didn't catch anything, just make sure they weren't fishing with Twizzlers first.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, guys, I think that's going to about wrap us up. I think we've covered all the questions. I don't think I've missed any questions. Let me go back here and look real quick.
Yeah. I think we got it covered good. Yeah, thanks again, Keaton Beach Vacation Rentals, KeatonBeachVacationRentals.com. Look them up. And I think that'll pretty much do us for tonight.
All right, well, just a heads up on next month, we got the legendary Pat McGriff.
Yeah,
Coming.
back by popular demand.
Back by popular demand. So in March, we got Pat McGriff coming back on. So you guys have that to look forward to. And I think we already have a date for that one too, right?
Yeah, it is. Give me 1 second here. It is March 4th, Thursday.
So there you go. So March 4th, Thursday, we'll have Pat McGriff on. Hopefully we won't have the type of the issues that we had this evening. We'll have all
Yeah,
that
we
figured
can
out.
not be sitting in my dining room, and we can, maybe go outside because, I'm sorry for the ambiance today, but this was kind of thrown together last minute because of the weather and other issues.
So yeah, so look forward to that. Want to thank Kenny for coming on. We really appreciate it, man.
Kenny,
Oh,
Kenny, what's your contact? What's your
Yeah.
social media contact?
Real Epic Charters.
And just Instagram, Facebook.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
If they want to book a trip with you, how do they do that?
They can go to my website, which is realepicharters.com, or any of the social medias.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Thank you.
So that's about it. I'm Captain Jay Carson, Plug and Fly Charters. Guys, if you want to do some shallow water red fishing, we can absolutely do that. So reach out to me to do that. Captain Evan Snow, Apalachee Inshore.
Just Evan Snow. You don't have to call me Captain.
Yeah, well, Evan. So if you want to get in touch with Evan, reach out on Facebook, social media, website, through all that, and that about wraps us up. So we'll see y'all next time.